Hello everyone, hello Alex. Apologies for a 2 minutes delay. It is totally my fault. My internet gave up on me, but I need to thank Google because with my phone and Google Fi, I get unlimited hotspots, so I can still do calls and do work. Alex, how have you been?
Yeah, no, all good. Everything is very good. Um,
And it has been an interesting week, Alex. And today the topic is a topic I really like, which is about lifetime value for businesses. And if you don't mind, I would like to start by sharing one slide to guide our conversation, which is a slide that I always call it the bad businesses slide. Let me give a quick introduction to the slide. Essentially, lifetime value, which applies mostly to e-commerce, but also to lead generation, can be applied by business. But a lot of people right now, they're still using something that I refer to as a bad business behavior, which is you get a website sale or a lead, you bunch all together your sales with new and repeat users, and essentially get a total transaction value for the month, which is what it is used to judge the performance of your marketing team or the sales of the company or anything you might think of. Essentially, this very narrow view of the business does not look at the value of the customer over time. Alex, I know this sounds basic, right? But how many clients have you seen using this approach when evaluating their business?
and most, which is the that's why I'm laughing. But yet, to their defense, it's also based on lack of data and attribution. So to at least give some sort of guidance or to if things are going good or bad. It actually gives at least a trend, but it's not spot on.
Yeah, because I feel like, it's true it is lack of data, but the lack of data can be dangerous because you're literally hindering the profit of the company, which kind of brings me to talk about what good businesses do, right? And this is like a first step toward, I feel like, lifetime optimization, because essentially if you get a sale or a lead on your site, but in this case it's mostly applicable to sales, you have sales from new users and existing users. Essentially, what I tell my client is leave the existing users alone. That's a good transaction, that's good revenue. Let's focus for a second on the new users and their first transaction on your site, which we can see essentially right here. How many times is this user gonna buy from you? Let's say 6 times. Let's say they spend $60 on average per transaction. Now, the value of this customer is 6 times 6, $360. Now, this is what this new user is worth to you, and that's when you can do the ROAS calculation. But this opens up a Pandora box for businesses because let's assume that you go to Alex or to Rocco and say I need to acquire users at $30 because my user spent $60 on my site and I need to make $30 profit. Happy for you, very good. How many more users can you acquire $70 CPA? That's the question. Can you triple the amount of users because you bid more aggressively? Now, people might think, looking at this, you're spending $70 to acquire somebody that costs 60 without counting all the costs you have. Let's say you're losing $10 to keep it simple. If you use this model, the lifetime value was $360, but you're tripling the amount of users, and that's a big increase in revenue for the business. So Alex, like, of course there are cash flow sometimes issues for businesses, meaning that not everybody has the money to put up front to cover the acquisition of more users at a higher CPA. But does it mean that the planning is being done wrong to begin with, meaning that you're using the wrong model to run your business, and eventually you need to find the cash flow if you want long-term sustainability? Uh, what do you see? Like, what is the biggest challenge that you see for users when they try to use this kind of approach?
A user, so I think as an operator, I think it's like fundamentally wrong. I think I think when you start thinking not lifetime value, meaning you see clients as one time and they will never come back, I think it's a fundamental way of communicating to your potential clients in the wrongful way. Therefore, I think how your messaging and your ads will look like will look a lot more desperate. It Your website or your landing pages will be a lot more urgent. It will have a lot more urgency rather than trying to establish also upfront when they even before they've bought a relationship, um, to really
Yeah.
establish that type of trust. So I think there's a fundamental way of doing things differently, where you do quick transactions, last click conversions, and just return on ad spend versus a lifetime value sort of look at it. And so, I mean, I'd say that I prefer this model that you're showing here, good e-commerce, because I mean, I think you can just strike out, e-commerce, and you can just call it good commerce. And because I think it's applicable in the
Yeah, that
real,
makes sense.
because I mean, if you treat as an agency, if you treat your clients as someone that you want to have a lifetime in relationship with, you can actually start sort of spending more time with each individual client to establish that type of relationship upfront. So some months you might not, from a cash flow point of view, actually make money because you've actually spent a lot of time with that particular client. But another month, because you've spent all that time upfront, and will lead that you're not needing to spend that much, but the client is yet happy. Um, and you can very easily see that, hey, well, on average, my clients are staying with me 4 years. Okay, well, then you know already upfront how much time you can actually spend upfront. And, I mean, you can apply this. It's the same way to ecom. However, we're in
Okay.
the deep fallacy because we're being measured often based on quarter, and if not month. And without sort of having full insight to what the strategy or the CRM tools are telling us. Because we won't really see lifetime value if we don't start digging or speaking to maybe a statistical team that isn't, or a data scientist. And so we're
Yeah, no,
being measured,
and
we're
that
being
makes sense.
driven by targets. Yeah.
No, that makes sense, and I think, like, your comment are totally spot on. But something that this applies to is also SEO, because SEO, essentially, you pay per month, you acquire clients, they have a cost per acquisition, which is what you pay per SEO. And essentially, right now, people say SEO will generate value over the course of a year, 2 years, depending how big a site is and how competitive the market is. But in reality, with this model, you can see the value of SEO much sooner. I'm going to share another slide with you here, which simplifies the whole process, right? I have a campaign A with a $71 CPA and the campaign B with a $30. Campaign A has a net revenue of 19, given an order value of 80. Campaign B, $60 net revenue. If that's the data you have, which is the point you make, the data we have available, you would put a lot of money into this campaign. But let's assume you now become smarter in looking at your data and you get more information. So the order value stays 90. The lifetime purchases, campaign A generates 7, campaign B generates 4. There is actually different lifetime value by campaign. The lifetime value net revenue for campaign A now for the same data is 559. For campaign B is 330. So essentially, every dollar you put in campaign B over the course of a year generates $3.30 and 30. Every dollar you put in campaign A within a year generates $5.59. So essentially, because you're not using data, you're cutting your revenue in half within a year. That's pretty powerful statements, right? This is a very simple example. I made it simple just because, when people say, yeah, data is important, okay, I'm going to show you how important it is using a very simple example of the difference in revenue you can generate the moment you expand the horizon of what campaigns are generating. And that's the same for SEO, right, Alex? Because you might be optimizing different keywords or different pages, and different pages might have different values there. So I would say this is probably a pretty big statement that if you're not using attribution models, you probably should get into attribution models, right?
I mean, attribution models, yes, but you should also encourage data sharing within an organization, because I think that's been one of my biggest challenges in the past, that marketing turns in a bigger or a slightly bigger org becomes a silo, and they don't get this type of information where you have like lifetime purchases aren't being shared with marketing because it's not relevant, and marketing's only role is to drive first time buyers, and therefore, as you clearly say and show here, it's that you're capping actual future growth um, by, by just something. I think it almost feels like of course, it's a cash flow thing, but it's also a definition thing, and it's also an understanding thing. Because I think one would be able to say that based on cohort or various ways, you can start sort of make certain assumptions that, hey, a client is worth this much if it follows the pattern like everyone else that look like this person or this buyer.
No, it is interesting. Like I'm gonna show you, Alex, a real case of I believe I have a slide for that, of a client that asked me to come in and analyze their business because they thought their marketing wasn't working. I believe I have a slide. There you go. And that was a very interesting analysis I did for that. This is September, so it's actually last month. They had spent nearly $8,000 on Facebook. On another platform, they spent $500, $3,400 in email marketing, $10,000 to their PPC manager, and $15,800 in SEO. Essentially, their marketing cost was $37,649, and they generated $19,000 in sales, which was from the previous months an increase of 34%. And that's the data they showed me. And they were like, do you think we need to fire our marketing team? And I was like, let me look into that. So I started analyzing. I was like, in September, you got 48.22% new buyers, and 52 were repeat. You got 243 orders. By the way, a nice increase from last month, of which 117 were new orders. Your AOV was 88, and the increase was 9%. Let's look at the value of new buyers. It's $10,378. Essentially, on the ads, you netted $1,900, but you're losing money big time. Then I looked into their business. Their lifetime value is 6. People buy 6 times before disappearing. All of a sudden, this 10,000 became a 62,268.93 within a year. They're actually, after cost, they're netting $209 per sale. Their marketing is working very well. So essentially, a business that wouldn't have called me, it would have fired the marketing agency. I came in and I was like, you need to keep them. And they were like, yeah, we need to keep them.
I think we've been Rockwell is suffering a bit from his spotty internet. Let's see if he's back. He's back.
There I am. Yeah, as I told you, hotspot can only get me that far. But as you can see here, like, the performance is amazing for the client. It's just, if you look at the first line, you are never going to be able to have a successful business, because if you sell a product for $30, $80, and you spend enough money to acquire it, which was essentially CPA on advertising was $34, but it becomes $154 when you count all the marketing costs you have, you think you're not working out. But now this is working out quite well for them. And that's That's the difference between a company looking at just sales overspend and sales overspend and lifetime value. It's humongous, the difference. And I think Alex, right, that this is probably a very eye-opening, right? Like,
I mean, it should be an eye opener for anyone. And however, um, in situations where you need to present certain information to your board of directors or your C levels or your VP or whomever you report to, or the one that might sit on the cash, which would often be finance that needs to approve your budgets. And
yeah,
it's not always that they follow the same way of calculating, because there is an accepted way of doing things within the business. Um, it's also something that I've come across stepping into some clients, that this is the way that we've done it. What you've now presented here looks nice. Kudos to you, but we don't buy it.
yeah. In that case, if you are if a client, let's say a client comes with this, in this case, it was a consulting engagement, right? They just wanted me to run an analysis for them. But if a client approaches me with a website and they don't agree with this way of optimizing, I'm not taking the client. I know it's not gonna go well, because if you're selling a $30 product, $50 product, and you are expecting to make huge profits without calculating all of that, you don't know how to run your business. I'm sorry, but the finance department clearly should find another job, right?
But I mean, I think, I mean, I'm not trying to defend anything. The thing here, though, is that I've worked with a lot of listed companies.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of what I meant um, by quarterly, sort of, we're being judged on a quarterly basis. Our listed companies actually need to sort of they need to release their quarterly reports, and therefore, this calculation makes perfect sense, but it to a market it doesn't, because they only stare down the funnel of certain specific sort of line items in a budget.
But could it be that maybe the market wasn't informed that the business needed to be unprofitable until it became profitable? Because there is a company that is listed in the market, it's called Amazon, that was unprofitable for a good 10 years, right?
No, I mean, 100%. But at the same time, Amazon, I think, we've been applying sort of LTV on these type of items, but you can also start throwing in lifetime value on something, i.e. that Amazon did, and they did something brilliant.
Oh
And
yeah,
what
they
was
were
that? I
incredible.
mean, it's crime. It's like, yeah, let's just bundle up everything, and you pay a small sort of reoccurring fee, and you get all this for free. But
Yeah,
what happens with that? Well, it happens that you'll buy only from us,
exactly.
over
And that
and
over
over
time,
and over and over and over again. So yes, I mean, I think there are situations, where that, loyalty programs is of course ways of really, really putting that through. So I mean, it's not just applicable um, on paid, or rather, you can
oh, to
actually
everything, yeah.
combine paid with sort of other marketing activities. Hence, also as a marketing team, one should also align, because you could almost play certain roles here.
Yeah,
Paid brings in the first sale. These other activities are for post sales, meaning
correct.
ensuring that you have not a churning client, but a retained, engaged client that keeps coming back on a frequency that are due to your product or service.
No, I totally agree. And I think like that's exactly a very good point. And some people say, can I apply lifetime value to every business type? Probably not, because let's say if you are a home builder, the chances of me building a house twice are slim. But let's say car dealers have applied lifetime value for a long time. That's called a car lease. When you lease a car for 3 years, they're going to do everything possible in their power to let you lease another car from them rather than you go shop and lease from another brand. That's exactly the concept of lifetime value, essentially, right? Like how can I maximize the earnings I make from Alex, because acquiring another user might be a little bit tough, particularly for luxury brands. That applies, right? Now, with that said, Alex, it is a very interesting conversation, right? Because we are looking into the possibility of potentially giving people that are listening to us a new way to look at things and change potentially the way they think about their own sales. There are risks, though, related to lifetime ROAS, and the risk is if your cost per acquisition to have a much bigger earning over time is going to bring you cash negative on the short term. That's where you might find compromises, which was you were talking about, right? How do I find a compromise between me maximizing the value of my business 12 months time versus not being cash negative? And that's where you find a good balance over what you propose and what you get approved, usually, right?
Yeah.
From an
But,
SEO
but
standpoint, Alex, let's assume SEO gets sales, of course, right? And people tend to say SEO is cash negative for a long time. But in reality, using a lifetime value approach on determining the value of sales or leads on SEO, that might be the kind of mentality that might open up more opportunities for SEO companies, because now you start seeing, okay, I only got 30 sales from SEO this month, but those 30 sales, yeah, you're right, they keep buying from me. And I wouldn't be surprised that the customer lifetime value for SEO is higher than paid.
I'd say, I mean, I'll start with the first. Yes, they are normally, because the trust, the trust, or rather the intent. There's a stronger intent with those that go organic. But I think we've been for clients that are relatively new in the SEO game and very new in the paid game, and we've been, and also relatively new industries. We've really combined paid marketing and SEO,
Yeah.
because SEO takes a while to sort of get going. However, when you start new company, new keywords, new industry, all these type of things, client doesn't even know what converts on their
Yeah.
behalf. Therefore, really utilizing and testing and experimenting with keywords on the paid side to actually see what converts into what value, and really helps to formulate a long-term SEO on-page strategy, meaning what type of content should be written about. And what I mean by this is also the choice of wording,
Yeah.
and the words, because I mean, one could put together again like this, buy now, buy quick. That also will work on Google organic, but you won't have repeat business, because people came to you because of price, not because of the relationship. Um,
Yeah.
but if you start choosing words that have proven on paid to also deliver a high value, and start building that in, you can start seeing this type of lifetime value. And I mean, also, I'm I'm seeing it from a point of view, and it's at times difficult to explain to clients that SEO is an investment versus paid, that is a cost. Because as soon as you stop paying on Google, or any other means of advertising, the traffic stops.
It is true, Alex, but there is also
And
another thing that is emerging a lot these days. We
tell
were
me,
talking to a lawyer not too long ago, and he wanted to understand. He was like, "Oh, my business is going well. I wonder where I can cut out money." I essentially did an analysis for this guy, And I showed him a couple of things, and he was like, I'm not sure. I was like, oh, look, let's do something. Let's just cut in half paid for a month, and then let's see if my analysis reveals itself to be right. And of course it did. But what it revealed is that people keep looking at SEO and PPC, but they do not understand the concept which I was taught in the first year of business school, which was there are an average between 5 and 7 touch points with a customer before you get a lead or a sale, a qualified lead in that case. And the story was that sometimes we would get a click on paid, then somebody would Google a keyword, they will see the organic result, read that, then the next day they will Google another keyword, click on paid and convert, and vice versa. It was like a whole mash up. And what I was trying to basically tell the client is that it's not about organic needs SEO to work, PPC to work, or PPC needs to organic. Is that the two start creating what we call an omni-channel approach to marketing, where a user, before committing to a serious decision, in this case hiring a law firm, they're always gonna do research. Now, do you want the competitors to show up, or do you want your organic result to be on top, or your PPC result to be on top? And essentially, we noticed that without the use of brand keywords into this exercise I did, the lift in business by running them combined was a 40% increase in revenue monthly, just for the touch point. And that's great to see, but it also explains why organic is so important. But at the same time, you cannot win on every ranking, and more importantly, they're always going to be pushed down from paid results. So you want to do that combo, so to say, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want to try to fill up as much inventory as possible, I guess, in sort of very markety terms. But I mean, I think, like, you mentioned 3 touch points. That's funny because I mean, my first job was within travel, like in 2004 or something. Already back then, because back then I think airline tickets were a lot more expensive, etc., etc. Therefore, on average, people did 1.7 trips a year. I'm sure in today's, 20 years later, people travel a bit more. But already back then, I don't know if this might be because they were traveling so seldom, therefore they needed to have it right. They had 14 touch points.
Yeah,
This was
exactly.
back then. Imagine today.
Yeah, considering the price too, right? Like, it's a big investment. Let's say I need to buy, the other day I needed to buy rechargeable batteries because I bought a cat toy. My wife wanted batteries, so she stole my computer batteries that I use for work. So I ordered on Amazon 2 more rechargeable batteries. It literally, the first ones I found, it said Amazon Basics. I bought them, couldn't care less. But trust me, if I need to buy a car tomorrow, I'm gonna have so many touch points that they're probably gonna ban me from the website of the dealer. And when you go on a dealer website, it's so confusing. They have 3 zillion offers. Then those offers, you don't understand if they're real or not. Then, is the car good, by the way, before I buy? So you start researching the car. It's normal, and people forget that the two together works, which is also connecting to the lifetime value, which is a click that you're paying from Google or a click that you're paying for organic. I say paying because they pay Alex to do the work, so that click has a cost to the company. That click that might cost you $1 or $2 or $3. If you're not going to nurture that click into becoming a sale, you're essentially wasting that $3. It could become a $3,000 over time, but that got to be nurtured to get there.
Yep. But I mean, I guess, not to summarize it, but thinking return of investment on like the first buy is a short-term way of looking at it, while obviously lifetime has a long-term approach and looking holistically at my user base and the value that I'm giving them, which I'd say are parts of the cornerstones of actually building a good company.
No, I agree.
Uh,
Well, that was an interesting conversation, Alex, and we are getting toward the end of our time.
yeah, no,
Just
no,
so you get a
Rocco,
lot.
thanks for adding some slides that you could also follow, and also like some of the mathematics, because sometimes it's hard to follow.
Yeah, it's an art topic, but I really believe like the more people follow it, the better it is. And we have had a lot of listeners today. I'm very happy about that. So I would like to thank them for joining and staying through the whole webinar. Just remember, every time you guys have questions, feel free to post them. We get to them right away. We are gonna follow up shortly with our next episode. We need to discuss dates with Alex. And Alex, anything else you want to add?
No, not at all. I mean, a fun topic. As I can just agree with you, Rocco, and I think maybe if you haven't heard, we've also started our own LinkedIn channel for this.
Yes, the digital
And
marketing podcast.
exactly, and we're gonna add that link to this podcast to this podcast now, so you'll be able to follow it. So we're gonna slowly but surely start sort of transitioning over there and do more fun stuff there. So I mean, please join us. We need a minimum X people to be on to follow us before we can do these type of sessions directly there.
Yeah, so please follow us so we can move everything over there, and you guys are gonna have a channel to be able to focus on. It's called the Digital Marketing Podcast. We will put it in the comments. And thank you so much for joining today, Alex. Thank you so much.
As always, Rocco, a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Ciao.